Welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast with your host, Helen Fritsch. Helen is a 60-plus lifelong competitive athlete, flight attendant, published fitness model, writer, IFBB bodybuilding pro, and certified wine specialist who believes that your age is irrelevant to pursue goals, dreams, and desires. Are you a woman in her 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who still has a burning desire to pursue a dream or a passion? Are you thinking about starting a new chapter in your life, but you're hesitant, thinking that you might be too old or just don't know where to begin? The Age is Irrelevant podcast is a podcast devoted to women who want to defy the odds, smash barriers, and redefine happiness and success after 40. It's time to make a difference. There is no need to dread blowing out that added birthday candle every year. A new movement is slowly taking momentum, where being over the hill just isn't relevant anymore. Age labels are being thrown out the window, and women are rediscovering the strength within themselves to make a difference, not only within their own lives, but also touching and inspiring the lives of other women. Join Helen as she and her guests discuss all aspects of aging after 40 and how to make the aging process and those twilight years more rewarding, exciting, and fun.
Hello, and welcome to the Age is Irrelevant podcast. I'm your host, Helen Fritsch. This is episode number 67. Now, today, before we get into the interview, I want to mention my sponsor, the Amino Company, and what a great sale they're having right now for Black Friday. From now until the 29th of November, you can receive 50% off on all of their products. Now, all of their products I absolutely love. They're science-backed and they're used by NASA and the astronauts. And if NASA uses these products, then you know they are definitely worthy. You will get 50% off if you use my link, and you can find that link in my Instagram link tree, HelenFritsch_IFBB Pro. Once again, 50% off all of their products at the Amino Company. Now, as far as our interview is concerned, if you're a yoga fan or a yoga instructor, you might be able to recognize my guest and everything that she represents. I'm interviewing 55-year-old Beth Shaw. She's a pioneer in the wellness, yoga, and fitness community in North America, and she single-handedly is responsible for the widespread growth of yoga throughout the span of the U.S. and Canada. She founded YogaFit in 1994, and she has certified over 250,000 instructors worldwide. She's also a best-selling author, and she has been in several publications, including Time Magazine, The Washington Post, Huffington Post, Yoga Journal, Self, New York Times, and the USA Today. Not only did we talk about yoga, but we also got into what yoga represents. Basically, becoming comfortable from being uncomfortable and then applying that to other facets of life, which I think we can all relate to. So without further ado, here is my interview with Beth Shaw. Hi, Beth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so thrilled to have you here. For my listeners, I am speaking with 55-year-old Beth Shaw. Many of you may know and are familiar with Beth. She's a pioneer in the wellness, yoga, and fitness space in North America. She single-handedly is responsible for the widespread growth of yoga throughout the span of the U.S. and Canada. In 1994, she founded the global mind-body education school, YogaFit, which since then has certified over 200,000 instructors worldwide. Now, she's also led trainings in Saudi Arabia, Israel, Japan, and many other international locations, and her team continues to lead trainings throughout North America, Australia, and Europe. She believes in empowering cultures and sharing the gift of yoga beyond borders. She's also a best-selling author. Her premier book, YogaFit, has sold over 100,000 units worldwide, and her latest, Healing Trauma with Yoga, is another bestseller, helping many during this pandemic. She has been exposed in the media numerous times, featured in fitness, business, and consumer publications, including Self, Yoga Journal, the Huffington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, LA Times, Entrepreneur, Washington Post, and USA Today. So once again, Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So starting off, I always like to ask my guests to just take us back to your childhood, and let's just go through your childhood. A lot of times the guests that I speak with, they come from, like, let's say, an athletic family, which leads them into where they are today, whether it be some type of fitness related activity. So, and then there's other guests that haven't even, started working out till they were in their 50s or 60s. So I always love to hear about my guests and their backgrounds. So let's just start from the beginning.
Well, I should start by saying I taught myself guided meditation and guided imagery when I was 6 years old because I suffered from horrible migraine headaches. And I have been working out in gyms since age 15. I developed, fortunately, at a young age, the love of weightlifting. Of course, back in the day, those were Universal machines and Nautilus machines at the McBurney YMCA in Manhattan, where I grew up. I wasn't particularly athletic because, when you grow up in New York City, there's not a lot of athletic endeavors. I did a lot of swimming as a child and, played after school a little bit of softball or whatever, but I was not particularly athletic, but I definitely loved working out in the gym.
That's awesome. And now, as far as your family is concerned, did you have siblings, and were your parents athletic, or were you the only person into fitness?
I grew up as an only child, and when my parents divorced when I was 13, my mother started working out at the gym. She was around 43 at the time, and she got me a membership too, and that's how I found the gym. Neither one of them were involved in like a regular athletic program.
Okay. All right. And so, now you're 15 and you're in high school and you're working out at the gym. Once you graduated from high school, take us through that. Did you go to college? Did you pursue other interests?
I went to college out on Long Island, New York, and I, continued my working out. In fact, the gym at my school at the time wasn't very good. So I joined a gym on the North Shore of Long Island. And most mornings I would get up, get a cup of coffee at the deli, and then go to the gym and start my day with a workout. And to this day, if I have my time in my own hands, that's how I love to start my day.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm an early morning person myself. And if I don't get it done in the morning, I start procrastinating and then it just doesn't get done. So I'm kind of like you. I like getting up and getting started early. So what did you major in school?
I majored in marketing and business administration, but I minored in nutrition. In college, I was in a car accident, and I was sent to some chiropractors who were former basketball players, and they turned me on to my first nutrition book. It was called Fit for Life by Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. And I loved that book. Everything made sense to me. I started eating that way. And it really sparked my interest in supplementation, nutrition. I was studying supplements when I was in college. So it was evident that it was a passion of mine from an early age.
Well, and hearing you say that, especially from way back then, that's really incredible. I was an athlete in school too. And I didn't really do hardly anything as far as supplementation was concerned. I had good coaches and good coaching. I went to college on a track scholarship. And then in high school, I participated in 4 different sports. But weightlifting was not a part of that at all. I didn't lift any weights. I was a runner. I played basketball. I played tennis. But, I would see the weightlifting room and all the football players in the weightlifting room. And I would go, gosh, that'd be kind of cool to do that. But back then you wouldn't dare, go near a weightlifting room with you being the only girl in there. Now it's like, hey, I'll take them all on. But, back then, and supplementation wasn't, a thing either. And I was so skinny and so scrawny back then. But I was a long distance runner. So of course, eating just 3 meals a day and some snacks, I look back now realizing I just wasn't eating enough. But, we've learned so much, and I'm so envious of kids today with everything that they have as far as supplementation and the training rituals and all the everything on the internet. So I commend you and applaud you for being that industrious way back then. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was so fascinated by it. And a guy that I knew from the gym took me over to his South Shore, like weightlifting gym. It was a very kind of a grunt and sweat type place. And it was there that I saw my first female bodybuilder. And I was just in awe. And I remember she said to me, and I actually put that in my book, Yoga Lean. She said to me, don't forget, diet is 75% of it. And that really stuck with me.
That is, and to this day, it's still the same. I mean, it's all about diet. When I'm in competition mode, I'm like, spot on. But even when, like right now, I'm not, my season's over, but I still eat really clean. But, I do have some ice cream in the freezer now. And I'm a certified wine specialist. That's my hobby.
Oh,
so
nice.
I have lots of wine around, and now I can actually look at it and go, I think I'll have a glass. But yeah, diet is crucial. And, I'm sure you probably agree, especially being, not only a fan of weightlifting, but also in the yoga realm, that the body is just such an amazing, fascinating machine. And it's just incredible how you can transform your body when you have the right tools to do so.
It really is and I'll take that one step further and say that the body-mind connection is even more fascinating, because I used to look at people who were lean and sometimes watch them eat what I would consider all the wrong foods and still manage to keep a lean physique. And what I've come to realize, and again, I put this in my book, Yoga Lean, I called it lean consciousness, because I think there becomes a consciousness where your mind starts controlling your body to stay not only in a state of optimal health, but also stay in a state of optimal weight, and to be able to kind of retool your body in a very short period of time using proper exercise, weight training, and nutrition. And meditation, I believe, goes a long way also.
I agree with you 100%. I think there's a huge connection there. I'm a huge proponent of mindset, and even just getting up and starting your day. If you have a negative mindset, all that negative energy, then it's not going to be productive. And there's days when I don't want to go to the gym, but once I'm there, I'm good. But it's just even just getting to the gym could be a struggle sometimes too, depending on what's going on. But positive mindset is, I think, so crucial and so beneficial for us, especially trying to, have a positive mindset most days. That's going to help improve not only you in the gym, but not only physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So I know how, let's backtrack a bit, because you said you taught yourself this at age 6. How did you do that?
To this day, I can't tell you, but I would just visualize. I would get horrible migraine headaches where I would get these white lights in front of my eyes, and I knew it was coming on. And then I would get the migraine, and then sometimes I would throw up or just get very nauseated. So in order to kind of take myself off the rails, I would visualize myself on a beach somewhere in a very calm setting or in the forest. And it worked. So I can still see those images in my head. It really was very powerful. I consider a lot of the good fortune I've had in my life to be spiritual intervention, to be very honest with you.
That's amazing. That's really, really amazing. So once you graduated from school, what direction did you take as far as a job? Did you actually use your degree to pursue work, or did you, go down a different avenue?
Well, truth be told, I really wanted to be a communications major, but I thought that going the business administration degree route would be the safest bet. There weren't a lot of jobs. I didn't go to the best college. I mean, basically you needed a pulse to get in there. So I got a job in Manhattan as a sales assistant for a media sales firm. And I found myself fired from that job pretty quickly. I moved to Los Angeles, took an advertising sales job where I had to be there at 6:45 every morning and drive an hour in LA traffic. It was at that time that I gained a bunch of weight. On a good day, I'm 5'10.5". On a good day, I'm somewhere between 145 and 149. And my weight went up easily to 170 pounds. I was lethargic. I was miserable. I had left my long-term boyfriend in New York. I had a lot of upheaval in my life, and I gained a lot of weight just sitting, as many people do who just sit. So I remember there was one day I said, enough is enough. I joined Gold's Gym that opened at 5 a.m. And every morning I would go to the gym before I would go to work. I swapped out those bean burritos for healthier food because I knew how to eat clean. And I took the weight off. It never really came back again. But it was powerful for me to see how easy that could be for any of us to pack on 20, 30 pounds if we're not careful and if we're not in a positive mindset.
Right, exactly. That's very prolific, because there's a lot of people out there now, especially with the pandemic going on, and everybody has put on those 15, 20, 30 pounds because everybody was, stuck inside. And I have a lot of, clients now reaching out who specifically have told me, I put on the pandemic 20 or, whatever. And they want to get back to where they were. So I can totally relate to, your struggles back then too. So,
the scary thing is, since prior to the pandemic, our obesity rate was 46%. Now I'm sure post-pandemic, our obesity rate is probably hovering well over 50% of our nation. And, that doesn't even count overweight people. So I actually just said to my media associate today, I said, I'm just focusing on Yoga Lean for the first 3 months of the year, because there are so many people that need to tackle, no pun intended, their weight.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're exactly right. And speaking of yoga, let's talk about that, because how did you transition from, how did you find the yoga space?
Well, I had been doing yoga postures as a child, and I didn't know really what they were. In fact, when I was in college, after a workout at the gym, I was stretching, and it was like the sky parted and a message came to me that I was going to be very successful in the health and fitness industry. So when I graduated from college, got fired from that job in New York City, moved to Los Angeles, was doing advertising and sales. Formal yoga was just a hobby that I was pursuing on the side. My first teacher was 93 years old. Wow. Her name was Renee Taylor. She would sit on a desk and instruct. She had cancer in the late 1960s, gone to Rishikesh, India, the birthplace of yoga, where coincidentally now YogaFit brings groups of people every November. And she cured herself of her cancer using yoga, meditation, Ayurvedic diet, came back to the US and started making, I guess it was videotapes at the time, or beta tapes, whatever, back when. She was writing books, and she was my first formal yoga teacher. From there, I pretty much did every style of yoga that I could do. I just loved it. That boyfriend that I was talking about followed me out to LA, but then we broke up, and all I did was go to yoga. And no matter who I had a date with, they would either come to the yoga class with me, or they were sitting out waiting for me when I was done with that class. And I decided to do a teacher training. At that time, teacher trainings were only in residence. You usually had to go away for 2 weeks to a month, which I did. I thought maybe I would teach seniors or something. And I did teach at my grandmother's retirement home. But the name YogaFit came to me one day on a bike ride. Around that time, I had also decided I wanted to have a cable TV show, hence that communications desire that I never quite fulfilled. And did a cable TV show called YogaFit, won some awards. I did a mail order clothing line. I attracted the eye of one of my students who was an investor, and he helped me raise angel funding, raised about $100,000. And we incorporated formally as a school in 1997, and we've been educating people around the world ever since.
Well, that's Congratulations. That's amazing. And I think also too, to have such a mentor, help you get started in that path. That's incredible. 93 years old. She must have been amazing.
Yeah, she was great.
That's amazing. So let's just talk about some of the things. What exactly, the term yoga, what exactly does that mean?
The word yoga means union, to bring together. So yoga brings everything together. It brings your body and mind together. It brings your energy centers together. It brings you together with your divine spirit and the infinite spirit of the universe. So yoga is very much a connector. That's what it means, and that's what in particular it means to me.
Okay. And what are some of the health benefits of yoga?
Health benefits of yoga range from, and I'm talking to athletes right now, injury prevention, balancing of the body, strengthening of the mind, body, spirit, flexibility, of course. There's a Chinese saying that's like we should be like bamboo as we get older, because most things as they age get brittle. But through the practice of yoga, we can keep our bodies really flexible. I was watching a movie the other night with Jane Fonda, who's my mother's age. And she's been in and out of the fitness industry for a very long time. And she's obviously in very good shape. But I watched her kind of walking around, and I could tell she had some, hip issues and such. And I wondered to myself if all those years of high impact aerobics took their toll on her. And then I also wondered if she was doing yoga. Because for anybody who's doing weightlifting, any kind of sports or activity, or even sitting all day, just to stretch the hips, the hamstrings, the low back, super important for longevity and peak performance in whatever you do.
It's funny you mentioned that, because my strength coach that I train with 2 or 3 times a week here, he's all about hip mobility. And we're in the gym doing something, and he's always like, okay, let's do a quick 5-minute stretch. He has his Theragun, and he's gunning me, in my hips. And I was actually at the chiropractor today, and he's like a fascia specialist and just trying to release that fascia in my hip because I'm lifting heavy. Yeah. And today was leg day. So
nice. I love leg day.
Yeah. So I totally understand the whole mobility thing when it comes to trying to loosen up your hip, because we really take for granted our back and how we are able to walk or even bend over and pick something up until we hurt ourselves. And then when you're paralyzed or you have this nagging back pain, it really brings a lot of things into focus. So I'm always trying to go massage once a month, chiropractor once or twice a month. I'm always trying to stay ahead of the game so I don't actually wake up one day and, hurt. So.
Yeah. And when you practice yoga, actually, you get so much mind-body awareness that for me, most times I can tell when an injury is around the corner, and then I am able to prevent it. Obviously, there's some injuries that happen very suddenly, but I think for a lot of us, especially those of us who are very active, kind of repetitive use injuries, and you can kind of feel it coming on, and then to course correct before it's too late.
Right. Is there anything that you need to know specifically before you start yoga? Like if I'm a beginner and I want to get into yoga, what exactly what can or should I expect?
Well, I suggest to anyone who's new that they try different styles to see which one resonates with them. YogaFit has online classes at yogafit.com. We also have a YouTube channel where people can take free classes. And when I first started formal practice, every limb felt like it weighed 500 pounds, and it was challenging. But the beauty of yoga is that you get to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and then you can take that philosophy off your mat and apply it to other areas of your life.
And well, with you saying comfortable versus uncomfortable, that's it's funny how when you get into something new, you are extremely uncomfortable because you're just not aware. But then as you progress, things just become easier. So that's you really said a mouthful. right there. And so you talked about the different types of yoga. So let's go over a couple and see like different types of yoga and what and who it might benefit.
Different styles of yoga include more flowing styles like a vinyasa or ashtanga, styles that focus on increasing the energy in the body and working on your chakras, breath work, and more of a Kundalini style. There's also Iyengar yoga, where people hold poses for very long periods of time. And the YogaFit style is a user-friendly, fitness-oriented style that models the traditional group exercise format of warm-up, work, and cool down. So our main focus at YogaFit is to keep people safe so that they can continue their practice and continue everything else that they're doing in their lives.
Got it. That's awesome. And how often should you do yoga?
The more the better, but I would say for most people can really get benefits practicing 3 to 5 times a week. I work out right now probably more than I do yoga, but at the end of each workout, I do an upside down pigeon pose, I do bridge pose, I do plow position to release my low back, I do lower spinal twists, I will stand on my head for at least 5 minutes because of the anti-aging benefits. So I always make sure to incorporate some form of yoga into every workout that I do.
Got it. And I'm sure you probably have heard this, and that's why I'm asking it, so you can explain this to our listeners. Yoga versus Pilates.
Well, the beauty of yoga is that you can do it anywhere, no equipment necessary.
Right.
You don't even really need a mat, but a mat is helpful. And with Pilates, you're working a lot of times on a reformer or a tower, where you're working against the resistance of springs and straps and bands and the like. So Pilates is much more of a pulling activity. And don't get me wrong, I love Pilates. When I have time, I try to go twice a week. That hasn't happened lately, but I love Pilates. But yoga is much more of a pushing. You're working really against your own body weight. So it's a lot more of a pushing activity. And there is something to be said, I think, for working against your own body weight, because you usually end up with less body weight to work against. Right. Try hanging out in a plank pose for 3 minutes and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny. I love doing planks, but I have to, when I'm in plank position, I have to start like rocking or moving feet or something just to keep my mind off the time.
So that's a really good strategy. When I was in Barbados a few years ago teaching at a women's symposium, there was a woman there who happened to be my age, my height. And I said, and she looked like she worked out. I said, what do you do? She said, I do a 3-minute plank every day. And so we went to a cocktail party at some diplomat's house, and towards, a couple of glasses of wine in, I was like, is your plank pose on your forearms or on your hands? And she said, on my forearms. And I said, okay, well, we're going to do it right now. We'll do 3 minutes your way and 3 minutes my way. And this is after a couple of glasses of wine. I wish I was more religious with my planks, but in a perfect world, I would be working that 3 minutes up to 5 minutes, because it's an awesome workout. And then when you're in the plank, actually, if you start to press into the balls of your feet, engage your quadriceps, use your shoulders, you can really use a whole bunch of different muscle groups. So it's not just core dependent, which I think is a really great way to be able to stay in plank for extended periods of time.
Right. I know, I agree. I think it's a great exercise. And there are so many different versions of plank also too, which I definitely try to incorporate into my workouts also. It's funny you mentioned that, because even today, my strength coach is a professional guide. And he was talking about, we had a couple of friends who, they have a big race out here in Phoenix. It was just this past weekend where the competitors had to climb 7 mountains in 12 hours.
Wow.
Go all the way up to the summit and then back down. And so we were talking about that. And the guy that won was a friend of ours. And he's also a guide also too. And it was just incredible. And I was talking to him like how do you train for that? And he said, you're not going to believe this. He said, but it's all core work. And I was like floored. I said, "You're kidding." He goes, "No, I'm not kidding." He said, "I've trained people to do these races." He goes, "And of course, there's other things involved." He goes, "But it's just so much core work, because that's basically where you're taking the brunt of everything when you're climbing these mountains." And I thought, wow,
definitely.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So once you found your love of yoga, and now all of a sudden, YogaFit, has come into, your life. Talk about, because I think there's a lot of women out there too now. We're all like in our 50s, 60s and beyond. We're all at this crossroads now where not only are our bodies changing, but our lives could be changing as, empty nesters. We could be going through relationship changes now too. A lot of women I know who are in their 50s, they want to pursue new dreams, new aspirations, new goals. They want to start their own business. So what kind of things, when you started, YogaFit, what kind of vision did you have in the beginning?
Well, I just had a vision that YogaFit would be the symbol for mind-body wellness worldwide. We have trained over 250,000 people on all 7 continents, but we still have a lot of work to do. The beautiful thing about being in the health industry, I think, for any woman, is that women are intuitive, they're insightful, they're nurturing. I think they make great coaches, great teachers. And also, there's so many women who have no clue how to operate their bodies. So I think that for anybody who's considering being a yoga instructor, you will always find people to teach. Again, with an obese population of 50% right now, there's a lot of work that we need to do out there to spread the message of health and wellness, because there are a lot of women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s who are out of shape and they don't feel good. And the thing is, as you know, from being a competitive bodybuilder, once the body is simultaneously the easiest thing for us to work with and the most challenging. But once we master our physical bodies, it then becomes much easier to master the mind and all the things the mind tells us that may or may not be true. And again, also, as we get older, to establish a spiritual connection. So we realize that when we leave the bodies that we're in, we're energy, and where we go, no one really knows. If we go into another body, or if we go out to another planet or whatever, that we connect with source consciousness. And I think that makes fear of end of life a little less scary.
Right. Everything you said was just amazing. I think women do really aren't really sure. They have goals, they have dreams, they have aspirations, especially when it comes to their bodies, especially if they are overweight and want to lose some weight. But it's just like when I started bodybuilding, I didn't know what I was doing. It's just like whenever you start anything new, you don't know what you're doing. So a lot of people, a lot of women have come to me as, clients, because they need help in losing weight and getting strong. And that's what I think is just amazing, that there's this uptick in women over 50, over 60, over 70 now. I was just telling you earlier before we recorded that all these bodybuilding promoters now are adding 60 plus to the professional leagues as far as divisions for us to compete in. That's unheard of. I mean, who would have thought, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, that there'd be a 60 plus category to compete in bikini contests? That's, if somebody would have told me when I was in my 20s that I'd be in my 60s competing in bikini contests, I'd have been like, yeah, right, So I think it's amazing that not only women want to improve their health and their well-being and their bodies, but that now there's so much out there and so many people out there to actually help them, help them attain this goal.
Yeah. And again, once you start taking better care of your body and you see the results, you recognize that the other dreams and aspirations in your life you can also attain.
Absolutely. It just kind of, it's like a domino effect. It's just once there's, I think a lot of women out there who might be overweight and they don't feel good, but they're so used to not feeling good, they don't even know what feeling better or feeling good is until all of a sudden they do start losing the weight or things start changing. And then they're like, oh, this is how it feels. This is what I'm doing. So I'm just so on board with all of this. Why do you think meditation is so valuable for weight loss?
Because I like to think of meditation as taking the garbage out. If you don't take your garbage out of your house on a regular basis, it piles up and it starts to stink. The same thing really happens with our minds because we get into habitual thought patterns. We're embedded in our neural pathways, and meditation gives us a little break from that. So meditation, in essence, becomes taking the garbage out of the mind. I like to meditate in the late afternoon, early evening, and kind of reset from the day. And then if I have evening plans, I'm a little bit more alert for them. Some people like to meditate in the morning, but meditation is an invaluable tool to give yourself a mental timeout. And also, there's lots of studies on meditation that show how rejuvenating it is for the physical body, for the nervous system, to lower your heart rate, to balance your insulin levels, to lower your cortisol, to get out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and get into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. So the benefits of meditation are innumerable, and we have a one-day course at YogaFit on meditation that we offer online, where we go over 8 different types of meditation so that people can kind of find one that works for them. Just like exercise and fitness and activities, we need to find what works for us.
I agree. And speaking of meditation, because I know a lot of people will be like, oh, I can't meditate, or my mind's too busy, and I start thinking of other things. Can you talk about like a simple meditation practice?
Yeah. I like to advise my clients that are just starting out to get on YouTube or iTunes, find a guided meditation. I have many of them on iTunes. Start with a guided meditation because you don't have to do anything. You just follow the prompts, so it's kind of like meditation 101. And once you get proficient in that, perhaps you want to move on to a mantra-based meditation or a walking meditation or silent meditation. The thing with the mind is always going to be busy, but meditation is just like any other muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Got it. And let's talk about yoga for longevity.
That's the topic of my new book, Yoga for Longevity. I think yoga is the most powerful tool for anti-aging. There are many yoga poses. In fact, in my book, Yoga Lean, I have a whole sequence of poses that are anti-aging, or I like to call them poses for longevity. And back bends are anti-aging and mood elevating. Inversions are also very anti-aging. I try to do a headstand every day because of the anti-aging benefits. If people are prone to depression, they should definitely be doing a lot of back bends and heart openers. The problem now with our society post-COVID is that everybody's sitting all the time over their computers. As you know, core muscles are getting weak, pecs are getting tight, back muscles getting weak. So yoga makes everything strong, it balances you, and it also makes you flexible again, so you can be like bamboo, strong and flexible.
Got it. Now that we're talking about, let's just go ahead and talk about your books then. I mean, you have several really great books, so let's just talk about them and give us a little Cliff Note version of each book.
My first book is called YogaFit. It's published by Human Kinetics Publishing. It's sold over 100,000 copies worldwide, and it's kind of like Yoga 101. It's in its 3rd edition right now, so we have things in the book on meditation, on the chakras, the energy systems, different yoga poses for different sports that people may do, and different sequences for different sporting activities and athletic endeavors. There's obviously something in there on yoga for weightlifting. So it's a very comprehensive yoga book. My second book, probably my favorite, is called Yoga Lean. It's a lifestyle book. It's got 35 gluten-free recipes in there. It's based on Ayurveda, which is the Indian science of medicine. And so you kind of figure out what body type you are. And if you're a kapha body type, for example, you're probably never going to be a size 4, and that's okay. It teaches you to work with the body that you have. There's a chapter in there on space clearing, which I'm very passionate about, chapter on meditation, breathing exercises, and there's even some weight training exercises in Yoga Lean. My third book is called The YogaFit Athlete. It's all sports specific, also teaches guided imagery and meditation. And then my most recent book, which came out 2 months before the pandemic, is called Healing Trauma with Yoga. And it is a book where 13 different people, including myself, share our trauma stories and how we use the practice of yoga, meditation, and other mind-body tools to overcome. So it's a very inspirational book. It teaches you what trauma does to the brain and the body. It teaches you how yoga can help both. There's my favorite chapters, chapter 12. It's called Living Your Best Life, and there are 22 tips in there that people can implement on a daily basis just to feel better.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you have such a wide variety that anybody could go in there, and specifically you're covering all the bases.
Trying.
How do you heal the body from, as far as fear goes, especially now with this pandemic? Give us some insight on how yoga would help calm fearing thoughts.
That's such a good question, because I just actually did a live webinar 2 weeks ago on fear. And we're doing another one, Navigating Fear and Change. I think it's actually tomorrow night, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The thing with fear is that we've all heard the acronym false expectations appearing real, which means that when we're having fear or anxiety, typically it's future-based of things that may or may not happen. When we practice yoga, especially the essence of YogaFit, breathing, feeling, listening to the body, letting go of judgment, expectation, competition. Number 7 is being present in the moment. So yoga really teaches us to be more present in the moment. So we eliminate the anxiety and the fear, and also we eliminate the depression, because depression usually comes from past events that we're rehashing in our minds. So the more we can just stay present in the moment, the easier it is for us to stay out of fear. I think a lot about fear personally. I try to make decisions that are not fear-based, and I try to challenge myself to do things I'm afraid of on a regular basis, to make sure that fear is not running my life. Unfortunately, right now, post-pandemic, fear is running a lot of people. I even find myself, like I was in Dubai presenting at a conference a few weeks ago. Everybody had to wear masks kind of everywhere. And, for the first couple of days when I got back, I was like, oh, where's my mask? And then I realized, okay, you don't need your mask. But there are these little triggers now that we have that we, or we see a friend and we want to give them a hug, and we like backing up, like, oh my God, should I hug this person? So whether or not any of us like it, the fear is running rampant. And again, decisions based out of fear, never good decisions. Fear literally shrinks our prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is our executive function. So we're making less executive decisions. Fear keeps us hypervigilant. So we're always in fight or flight. And our bodies were not made to stay in that type of a state for extended periods of time. Back, because we've had the same bodies that we've had for, thousands of years. If we were in the Serengeti and we were, trying to run away from a lion or something, that was a fairly short event. Our bodies were not in that fight or flight fear state for extended periods of time, but now everybody's in, high cortisol levels constantly. Mm-hmm. So again, what better reason to do meditation, practice yoga, and really try to wrestle your mind and get it in a good place, because our minds are not necessarily set up to stay in a good place.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. With me being a flight attendant.
You see it all the time.
With the people coming on board with, the whole mask situation coming on board, it is kind of crazy. And then going from state to state or country to country, if I'm in, I think I told you I was in Florida, Arizona, basically you would never know that there's a pandemic going on here because there's really no mask rules here anymore. But then I'm going to other states, and from the time we even leave the airport to get onto the hotel van to get to your room, I mean, if going into a restaurant, having to show your vaccination card, depending on where you're at, it's that alone is stressful.
It's super stressful. There was a long time during the pandemic I didn't really travel, although I did go to Arizona in May of 2020, and I had the best time because I was able to go to Pilates, I was able to go to a bar, I was able to go to the cryo place. It was fabulous. And I thought for a second about moving there. I ended up moving to Florida. I was living in New York City. And, after 3 months of lockdown, I had enough, and I changed states because of the pandemic. And quite frankly, I've been going to live events since January of 2021. And I'm so thankful that I moved to a state like Florida because it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally understand. So, any recommendations for women who are wanting to get into yoga but not really sure what to expect, or as far as I know there's different types of yoga, but can you recommend any specific beginner yoga styles that they should be looking at?
Well, I of course am going to say that they should find an instructor that was trained by YogaFit, because we've trained so many people. You can go on our website and look under the Find an Instructor button. But if people are just going locally, I would say don't stop at the first style that you go to. Really do an exploration for yourself and see what resonates with you. Definitely find a beginner class or find a class like YogaFit where we offer 3 different levels on each pose so that people can do what they're comfortable with and practice with the body that they have today.
Oh, I like that. I love having options like that because I'm not very flexible at all. So it's nice to know that there's options out there for people like me.
We run a conference every year in Scottsdale. We just had one in July.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was not that well attended. People are slow to come back, but we're actually running a conference in early January in Palm Springs from January 5th to the 10th. We'll have all different types of training, including our Yoga for Addictions training. So anybody struggling with eating disorders or anything should definitely take that training. As you know, a lot of addictions were developed during the pandemic that perhaps weren't present before.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. And finishing up, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way? I'm sure you're on social media. You can give us your website address, and then you can just name your books again, just one more time.
Well, I'm on Instagram, Beth Shaw Mind Body. They can also visit my personal website at bethshaw.com or yogafit.com to find out about our trainings, conferences, and educational or corporate webinars. My books are Yoga Fit, Yoga Lean, The Yoga Fit Athlete, and Healing Trauma with Yoga, all available on yogafit.com or barnesandnoble.com or Amazon.
Awesome. Anything final that you'd like to say before we end our conversation? It's been fantastic talking to you. It makes me want to. I haven't done a yoga class in a long time, but I keep thinking, and now I'm thinking, I need to get back into this.
Well, I would just, first of all, it's so great to speak to someone who's bodybuilding, especially later in life. It's inspirational for me. And I'd also like to just remind everybody that your health is your most valuable asset always. And without it, you really can't do much of anything. So first and foremost, I hope everybody's just focusing on their good health.
Awesome. Well, Beth, it's been a pleasure to meet you and speak to you. You're so inspirational. I mean, there's so many women. I actually was talking to a good friend earlier who is a yoga instructor, and I told her I was interviewing you, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I have her book." So that was really fun to hear her even talk about you. So thank you again for being so gracious and chatting, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, you as well. See you in the skies somewhere maybe, or at a yoga conference.
I hope so. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I sure hope you enjoyed that interview with Beth, and here are some takeaways. Number one, your health is your most valuable asset. I can't stress this enough. Every single woman that I've ever interviewed on this podcast not only agrees with this statement, but lives this lifestyle through their training, their mindset, their outlook on life, and their own self-care. At the end of the day, we are responsible for taking care of ourselves. If you want to live a long, fruitful life, then you will have to not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. Good health will not be achieved overnight, but consistently adhering to a healthy lifestyle will not only improve the quality of your life, but will also improve the longevity of your life. And that, my friends, is the name of the game. Number two, Beth described yoga as being like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it will get. I think I can speak for all of us that when you first start practicing yoga, it's difficult and uncomfortable, especially for those of us who are not flexible. But with consistent practice, not only will your body respond and get stronger, but your mind and mindset and other areas of your life will improve also. A win-win situation. And finally, meditation is also an intricate part of yoga. Beth equates meditation to like taking the garbage out. Lots of times, if we let the garbage sit too long in the garbage can in the house, it starts to stink up the kitchen. Well, meditation takes out the garbage or takes out those negative thoughts of your mind, freeing us of those thoughts that can become detrimental to our livelihood and literally cripple us. So if you're a yoga lover, I commend you. I'm sure you're enjoying all the benefits that yoga has to offer. If you'd like to get into yoga, you can go to YogaFit.com to see what kind of yoga classes are offered in your area. You can also reach out to Beth at Beth Shaw Mind Body on Instagram and BethShaw.com for more information on yoga classes offered through her courses and on YouTube. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me at ageisirrelevant.com or shoot me an email at helen@ageisirrelevant.com. And once again, if you enjoy all these podcasts, please go to iTunes and give me a 5-star review. That would be amazing. All of you gals out there, I commend you for being such badasses and for being such awesome Age is Irrelevant women. And I wish you happy holidays. And until next time, age truly is irrelevant. Bye-bye.